No, I think I've got one up here. Do you have a mic, or what are you doing? Are you just... Oh, there's a mic over there.
All right, folks, we'll get underway here. I'm going to state your name now before asking a question. Take one question and one follow-up.
Hi, Premier. Karina Zapata from CBC Calgary.
Hi.
Someone has to ask, what are your thoughts on the fact that Carney's list of major projects for fast tracking didn't include a pipeline like you're pushing for?
Well, I can tell you that I am supportive of all of the projects that are on that list. And I'm really encouraged to see that so many of the other provinces are proposing resource projects that are revenue generating. I think that demonstrates that there really has been a sea change in public attitude in the last year, and it's good because we all need to develop these kinds of projects because we all are facing budget pressures, and this is going to be good for the country. So let me just say I'm very supportive of those. When it comes to our proposal, we want, of course, a bitumen pipeline to Asian markets, and we also are coupling that with the Pathways project, as well as addressing the 9 laws that have been impairing our investment climate. I've been going back and forth with the Prime Minister on a memorandum of understanding. I'm very encouraged by where we find ourselves, and I'm very hopeful, and we'll know in a few days whether or not that hope is well-founded. But we are hoping to be able to get to an agreement.
And I know that you heard the Prime Minister's remarks earlier today. He said he's hopeful about the progress. Things should be coming in the coming weeks. Are you still hopeful that this will come through by the Grey Cup, by Sunday?
Probably not by Grey Cup, but we'll have a pretty good indication in the next few days of whether or not we're going to come to an agreement. Part of the issue, of course, is that he is going to be traveling, and so if we do have something to announce, we'll make sure that you all know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Premier Edward from City News. You just mentioned that you don't believe an MOU could be signed by Grey Cup weekend. So when is the next possible date that you think that you can see your government and the federal government signing an MOU? And is there a firm date where if an MOU is not signed, your government says, well, this federal government is the same as the last one?
We both have a sense of urgency, and so that's why I'm saying we'll know better in the next few days. We're pretty, we've got our 2 negotiating teams that have been spending a lot of hours going back and forth. There's still a few more things to work out. I think the Prime Minister said that as well. But I would expect that we'll be able to have some answer one way or the other in the next few days.
You mentioned in your speech today the 9 bad laws that could potentially be included in an MOU. What are one of the laws that you could potentially see that has the highest chance of being repealed and included in this MOU?
Well, let me tell you the 3 that are the most problematic. One is, of course, the emissions cap. And I think we already saw with the release of the budget that there was an indication that it might not be necessary if there were other things that we were doing. So we took that as an indication that the message has gotten through, that having an emissions cap really just dampens the investment climate. And we're not the only ones saying that. Deloitte, S&P, and others have written reports saying that as well. The other thing I would say is the net zero power regs. I mean, look at the announcement today of Silisms being on the major projects list. Why is that there? Is to be able to export natural gas to Asian markets so that they can displace coal so we can reduce emissions. So how can you celebrate doing that and then tell Alberta you're not allowed to use natural gas on your power grid? It's also one of those investment dampening types of policies, so that would be the second one. And then, of course, is the tanker ban on bitumen, that if we're going to build a new million-barrel-a-day bitumen pipeline to get to Asian markets, you have to have at least a carve-out, if not a full repeal of that legislation as well. So those are the 3 things that we'll be looking for. Obviously, we put the 9 on the table for a reason. We think all of them combined have created an investment climate that has driven investment away. But those would be the main things that I think would really turn things in a different direction.
Hi, Premier. Will Vassar with the Western Standard. Recently, Prime Minister Carney announced that he's going to be making a trip to the United Arab Empire next week. Have you been able to have any conversations with him following your trip and coordinating ahead of his trip? And is there anything that Albertans should expect coming out of that trip to hear?
One thing I would say is that I believe that he's already had a minister who's gone to the UAE as well, and that is Evan Solomon, who is the technology minister, and that should tell us something, because when I was there, Microsoft was putting on a major conference, and one of the things that they revealed was that 700 million people on the planet don't have electricity. 2.6 billion don't have access to the internet, and 3.9 billion don't have digital skills. That's half the world's population. And so I think what you're seeing is that among the tech industry, they're understanding that we do need to invest in clean or in abundant energy, and that comes from all sources, so that we can fuel the AI data race. So I would hope that the fact that he sent his AI data minister there, that they're getting the same message that we are, that we've got to look at natural gas as a foundation fuel in order to be able to fuel that growth so that we can address issues of global poverty. I would, in fact, love to see a free trade agreement with the UAE. The UAE has 17 free trade agreements with other nations that are hard for us to get into. They have a free trade agreement. They've got access to markets in China, in India, all throughout the Middle East, all throughout Africa. And so we think that that would be an incredible destination for us, especially for our agriculture products and our fiber products. And so I wish him well. I hope that he has some good news there. But I think that the UAE is the most advanced from a technological point of view. They have 59% usage of artificial intelligence in their economy. I think Canada's at 33%. So anything that we can do to understand how they're doing that, I think, is going to be really positive and lead to productivity gains here.
And then my second question is, Mayor Farkas just announced that he's proposing change to the flag policy at Calgary City Hall so that national flags wouldn't be raised in light of the recent Palestinian flag controversy and division caused by it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm waiting to see. We've got a similar policy resolution being debated at our AGM to limit the times that we would put flags up at provincial buildings. So, I'll listen to the debate. We have all kinds of reasons why we honor various days and various months of the year through our flag raising ceremonies. Tanya Fur has been at many of those, but I don't want to prejudge it. I haven't seen what Mayor Farkas is doing, but I know that it's been an active debate.
Premier, Matthew Case, Globe and Mail. Question about the MOU. Why exactly is there an MOU between Alberta and the federal government that's being drawn up? Because these are obviously federal laws that would apply to all provinces. So can you explain sort of the thinking behind an MOU and why that's the route that's being taken?
Well, I would say that many of these federal laws disproportionately impacted Alberta. I mean, the emissions cap was on oil and gas, and Alberta is the producer of the bulk of the oil and gas, 4.5 million barrels a day. I think you've seen as well, though, that the new Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador has also identified the emissions cap as being problematic. We are also one of only a couple of provinces that have natural gas as our principal energy source on our grid. I know our neighbor in Saskatchewan has coal still on their grid, and they do as well in some of the Atlantic provinces. So we're hoping to be able to get an agreement that will help all of us. But I think there is no question that some of these bad laws disproportionately impacted our economy and led to investment outflows, which we calculate has been over half a trillion dollars. So that's why we're putting them together, because you can't build a pipeline if you don't have investor confidence to produce more bitumen so that there's something to go in it. That's why we've had to link those two things together, and we know that the Prime Minister is interested in the Pathways project as a way of reducing the overall emissions intensity, and so we're supportive of looking at that as a package.
And can you tell us whether you're any closer to seeing a private backer for a pipeline?
I suspect it would be a whole lot easier after an MOU. I don't think that there is a private sector proponent that would be willing to go through what a lot of our private sector proponents did over the last 10 years. When you look at what TC Energy went through with Energy East, spending $1 billion and seeing no pathway to get an approval. Same with Northern Gateway. They spent $1 billion on their Northern Gateway project. TC also spent more than $1 billion. I think probably, Alberta was on the hook for over $1 billion. I don't even know what their losses were associated with Keystone XL. They have to know that they're going to get to an agreement. So we want to be able to do the initial work to get it on the major projects list, knowing that then there's a 2-year time frame. And I suspect if we're able to do that we would expect a private proponent to come forward. We have all of the major pipeline companies with their expertise at the table giving us advice, so we know that we will find the best route at the most cost-effective price, but it really is going to be, at this point, it's really a regulatory issue. And so that's why we wanted to front it until we can get to that point.
What's the difference between a MOU and a repeal and replace system?
Well, a memorandum of understanding has a commitment on both parties that we're going to do some things together. And so because our discussion with Ottawa is a little more complicated, because we have to go cross-jurisdiction. It is their area of jurisdiction to build cross-border pipelines. Because we've got these 9 laws that we think need to be either repealed or substantially revised to change the investment climate, and because we've got this other joint project that we want to fund together with Pathways, all of those had to come together with a memorandum of understanding so that we each put on the table what our commitments are to achieving it. And so I don't know that maybe if there are similar complex arrangements in other provinces, they would do the same thing. But that's the reason why we decided to take this approach, so that we know that it's worth it for us to go through and put in the effort to finish the work on the feasibility and the technical analysis. We want to have an understanding that the federal government is willing to work with us on that. So we'll know in a few more days.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, Tim Brooks, CTV. I understand there's a lot of optimism here, but I'm also just wondering, are you surprised that the pipeline didn't make this list this round, just knowing that all the ones that did get approved were a little bit more planned and further along?
No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, when we took a look at what it is we would need to do to get it to the point where other projects were at, we knew that we needed to take a few more months to do that. So I think the time frame that we've put out is in the spring. But we still want to make sure that we're all heading in the same direction. And so I think an MOU gives an early indication. If we can get to a signing ceremony together, it gives an early indication that that's the direction that we're both committed to working on together. So that's why we've taken a slightly different process. But the end result is that we want to see those projects on the major project list once they've been scoped out.
Your tone in the last 365 days has done a 180 when it comes to Ottawa. I'm just wondering what makes you confident in the relationship with the Carney government as opposed to the Trudeau government that you can get something like this done?
Well, I can tell you that the tone of the federal Liberal government has done a 180 in the last year as well. And there's a few things that I've been looking at to see a true indication that there's a change of approach. And I'll tell you the proof points that I've looked at. One was the immediate repeal of the carbon tax, which disproportionately hit us. I mean, it was our home heating. We were paying 4 times as much in the carbon tax as we were in the base cost of gas. The second proof point was during the election, hearing the Prime Minister run on becoming an energy superpower in conventional and new energy. That was sort of a second. The third was the establishment of the Major Projects Office, which got the support of the opposition as well. So I think that was a measure of goodwill that he was intending to move in this direction. Fourth was the suspension of the net zero vehicle regulations from coming into effect in 2026, pending further review. I think that shows a level of pragmatism. And also, I think he indicated that he's going to change the rules, at least for cross-border trade in plastics. We're still going to beat him in court on that one, on the federal declaration of plastics being toxic. But those are the things that I have identified that we would not have seen under the previous leadership. And so that's why I have some optimism. And I hope that we can get these, the worst laws that are impacting us the most. I'm hoping that we can make a major breakthrough on that. Thanks.
Hi, Premier. Devin DeKuyper with Post Media. Just wondering, other than the 9 bad laws, have there been any other kind of holdups or roadblocks coming out of those conversations with the Prime Minister with regards to getting the pipeline and Pathways on the list?
We were really focused on an energy deal. There's always going to be differences of opinion on a whole range of other issues, but we try to deal with those at the different tables that we have, and we'll deal with those as we go. But I think for us, a lot of problems get solved if we have a robust, vibrant economy where businesses are investing and jobs are being created. Everything else, I think, is a matter for politics and debate, and there's different perspectives on what the right answer is on some of those other issues. But I hope we can get to a point where, as the Prime Minister said, pipelines are boring. I would love pipelines to be boring again. I would love for them to be so boring that they were never a political issue. I'd love them to be so boring that it doesn't matter who is in the chair and what party banner they wear, that we just recognize that they've got to get built for the benefit of all of us. So that's what we're working towards, and I'm very hopeful that we'll get there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Premier Chris Brown, Cross Border Network. Hopefully you're okay with taking a municipal question at the
Sure.
municipal conference.
Sure,
Earlier this morning, 86% of delegates voted to ask the province to either look at collecting their own education portion of property taxes or offsetting the cost of collecting the property taxes. Are you in favor of that?
Well,
sorry, I apologize.
Oh, yeah.
Just add on to that. Would you also be in favor of reimbursing some of the costs that they've already collected?
Well, I have to tell you, as we were, I floated this last year, that I wondered if there would be any municipalities who would want us to collect property taxes and rebate back to them in order for them to save money. That was sort of what I put on the table. We already have more than 320 tax collection departments. Having another one is probably not the most efficient thing to do, but if there are any municipalities who want to hand that power over to us so that they can get efficiencies and that we would reverse it, where we collect the taxes and we rebate to them, we'd be very happy to have that conversation. But we don't want to create yet another tax department to hire a bunch of people to do exactly the same thing. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
So you're saying keep it status quo for
Either
2026?
keep it status quo or work with us. One of the things that we looked at when we were doing our review of whether we should collect personal income taxes ourselves is that what we discovered is that there really isn't a good cost-effective case to be made to have an exact parallel system to what the federal government does. It could potentially cost $1 billion. And so it wouldn't make sense for us to create an exact parallel system to the 320 plus tax departments that already exist. But if there's a way for us to switch it so that we're doing that tax collection, especially for some of the smaller municipalities. I mean, I know that this is it's a big burden. If there's a way that we can switch that, we'd be open to having that conversation. But when I put it that way, I suspect that the municipalities will probably be less keen. Thank you. Thanks.